Hello everyone and welcome to the first virtual edition of Media City UK's Spotlight On session in partnership with RTS Northwest and Red Production Company. Media City started the Spotlight On series in the days before lockdown as a way of inviting well-known experts from the media, creative and digital sectors to Media City UK to share their stories and their skills with the community. This is the first of the Spotlight On series that is taking place virtually, and it's a great opportunity to open this event series up to a much wider community. So please do keep your eyes open and on the Media City UK's social media feeds for future announcements around the series. Now, I'm delighted to be joined this evening by the acclaimed screenwriter and executive producer, Russell T Davies. Hello, Russell.
Hello, LA. Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us during these testing times. We've had so many questions in. I will try to get through as many as I can.
I'd love that. Let's hammer through.
But firstly, how are you dealing with this current lockdown? It feels like we're living in a very years and years type world. And I think a lot of people are wondering what you're doing to keep yourself entertained.
I should have copyrighted this situation well in advance. It's like I'm in a strangely lucky position in that first of all I can afford to be in a lockdown, so that a lot of problems that a lot of people are having I'm very lucky not to have, and I'm aware of that, of how lucky my life is. I'm also quite lucky work-wise because we've just, with Red Productions, you and I, LA, have just made a show called Boys about the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. We finished filming on the first day of February, I think. So the shoot was finished, everything was done. So we're just in the edit now, and it is amazing how the editor and the director are Zooming each other all day long. I actually know one editor who's moved across the country to sit with her director. Ours didn't need to do that. But so it's in the edit. We get sent the link. It's amazing how once it gets to post-production, not a human hand needs to touch it. So it's in the edit. We watched the final episode last night, which is so good. And we had a big Zoom conference this morning where we all gave notes. Then, we send it to HBO. They give notes. So everything's doable online. It's quite amazing. I think the only bit where people will actually have to move and do something is for ADR. That's additional dialogue recording, which is very little, but you need it's dubbing. You need the odd line here and there put in. But we think it's going to be quite a simple thing to put an actor in a car or to get them safely to a studio and get them into, you do actually do ADR recordings in a booth, not sitting next to anyone. It's quite an isolated process. So we think all that's doable. We haven't reached that stage yet. That's coming up in June. So strangely, post-production is very, very possible, we discover.
And have you found it as enjoyable a process? Because obviously we've been thrown into this. We've never done this before. And normally you would all be in a room together and it's that connection of being together in a room. So how have you found it going suddenly online?
I've got to say no, because we started isolating it quite early because our producer looks after his elderly mum, and was ahead of the game in not wanting to carry any infections back home. So we started to do it before the lockdown. And in theory, yes, you miss the contact and you miss the bouncing off each other like you do in an edit. But actually, Zoom is very like that. We had a call this morning about the episodes, and I don't think if we'd all been in the room, the notes would have been better. I don't think so, because we know each other very well and know each other's ways of working. So far, it's okay. Of course, the great unknown is the future to come after that. And I know, I presume online today we've got a lot of professionals, with this being based around Media City and production. So believe you me, I know this was advertised, like Russell Davies talks about the future of writing. And I have no special clues and no special insight into what's going to happen. Like everyone, I'm sitting going, what the hell?
I know. And a lot of writers do choose in some ways to lock themselves away when they're writing. So I suppose for you, does it feel that different than when you're writing?
You're absolutely right. It's like all us fellow writers are kind of secretly emailing each other going, it's not very different, is it really? And, I live on my own, so now I'm on my own. And I'm actually down here in Swansea, which is very nice and got for nice walks. So it's not, it's funny that after 6 or 7 weeks now, it's beginning to go, this is odd, actually. I'm beginning to feel that kind of tolling bell. It's weird. But actually, no, it's fine. It's not that madly different. I suspect some people are being even more creative than ever.
Well, I was going to ask you that, whether you feel that for you personally, is this a creative time for you, or are you feeling less creative, or, I don't know how
I don't feel any less creative. With a lot of buzz and fuss has occurred around the Doctor Who world. That was quite exciting because that's a world that's very online literate and very online active, and that was very nice because they started doing things like tweet-alongs of old episodes, and then they said to accompany the tweet-along, they turned to us writers and former showrunners saying, "Have you got any material like DVD extras? Have you got any extras you could bring to this?" Which we did, and that's turned into something very creative, and we ended up shooting what we called a sort of an extra episode of Sarah Jane Adventures, which was a CBBC show. I used to, like everyone is, was shooting with actors shot on webcams. Ours was quite interesting because there's a Jeff Pope drama on ITV next week with actors shot on webcams. Also quite interesting because we had no budget. We literally didn't have £10 to do it on. So it was literally actors with camera phones. Some people are getting lighting in and technicians in and stuff like that. So that is creative. What is interesting is, I'm lucky because I'm just in that lull between projects, so I don't have to concretely think. And I don't know what I'd be thinking about something that has to be written for next year because production will start up. I don't know when. That's very interesting, and you're getting very different. It's incredible in a crisis like this. Who would have thought that the one thing paving the way worldwide would be the Neighbours production team?
No.
Neighbours in Australia has gone back into production with a very regimented, isolated means of production. I can't describe it. Just if you're wondering what that is, go and search Neighbours resumes filming, and there's detailed descriptions of their patterns, which sounds brilliant. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought out of the whole of Hollywood and all of Bollywood and Britain, all these countries making stuff, that Neighbours would pave the way? I'm still very interested to see how it works. I still can't quite believe, because everyone thinks, I think everyone out there thinks, I don't know how many people who don't actually work in television listening to this, because people tend to think that the government, the lockdown rulings are stopping filming, or the BBC is stopping filming. What's actually really stopping filming that was happening before the lockdown is insurance is stopping film. You cannot insure, as you know, you cannot insure productions. Any production has to be insured against its lead actor falling ill. And that's actually a cost of the insurance on that is, if you lose a week's filming, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds. What insurance company now is going to take on insurance for that for months? You can talk about the lockdown being lifted, you can talk about restrictions being lifted, but I do find this genuinely worrying for many, many months to come. What insurance company is going to say, "Oh, you want to make more War and Peace with 5,000 extras?" No.
No chance.
When an insurance company says no to insurance, the production stops. This was happening in March, wasn't it? Do you remember?
Yeah.
It's happening long before Boris locked us down. So that's very well. And I'm the reporting of this neighbour situation is very interesting. I want more detail though. I would, as ever, send a proper journalist there to ask proper questions. I wish they'd do that, because how are they insuring someone? Imagine if you worked on a show and you died as a result of catching a virus in the workplace. The lawsuits would be enormous. So I admire them for doing it, but my God, that's a risk.
Yeah.
That is properly a risk. So no one knows what's going to happen. Anyway, that's the production side of things. What I'm finding interesting is that there's one thing I was kind of planning. It's not commissioned. I was planning to write it next year. It's kind of domestic. It's people and now I'm not actually writing it at the moment, but I'm sitting here thinking, if I was writing it, it's going to be so hard to work out what life is going to be like in 12 months' time.
Yeah. And
then you write it for 12 months' time, and then we'll have a second wave or something, so it'll all go back again. So it's how do you write a family right now? How do you say Dan goes to visit his mother, and is she in isolation? Do you have to start writing this? How can you be topical with the stuff you're writing, because it's all changing so fast? So that's properly interesting.
And is that going to be what people want to see when we get to the other side of this? Do we want to relive it via the dramas that we're watching, or do we want more escapism? Do we want to forget this time?
That's very true. I emailed someone in drama in the first week of the lockdown saying, "Oh my God, I bet you're going to get lots of thrillers called Lockdown on your desk." And he said, "They're arriving already." And I love this stuff. This Jeff Pope thing. Jeff Pope's a brilliant man. He's doing this drama next week. There's a great bunch of female actors doing a series for YouTube called Done Breeding, which is Julie Graham's doing it, Denise Welsh is part of it, Angela Griffin. Great people. And it's about the menopause, but they're releasing it on YouTube, all shot at home on their cameras. But Charlotte Moore, who's head of the BBC, released a statement, I think it was today, actually, saying there's a limit to how much longer people are going to be wanting to watch things shot on cameras. Is there? I don't know. Maybe we haven't got any choice. I don't know. And what will happen when the soaps run out of episodes? I just find it fascinating.
I know. And I think as well, we all imagined when we were watching Years and Years and we saw the use of Signor and we saw, Muriel still in the kitchen cooking while everybody's on the screens and it's all virtual. And now we're all doing that. We're having virtual dinner parties. We're having online quizzes. And I think a lot of us thought that was years to wait for that, and now we're here.
Well, it's funny. People always say about Years and Years. Oh, you predicted that in Years and Years. And you said it would take 15 years. Actually, Years and Years was always a parable about today. It is funny that this video conferencing software has been around for ages, actually, but it took this emergency to. And it's funny, It's. I mean, here we are. I feel like I'm sailing past on a gold yacht or something. Here we are discussing the problems of television when people are dying.
I know.
And people are, a lot of my friends are freelance. Obviously I know a lot of actors, and actors are not well-paid people, and they're not ones to save either, and their work is very hand-to-mouth kind of stuff, and an awful lot of them live in flats with no windows in the middle of London, which is very expensive, and it's hard. It's properly hard. You think we're only 6 weeks into this. If work doesn't pick up soon, and they're not on the list of schemes to be saved by the government, so it's funny worrying about Neighbours production patterns when lives are being and we don't, we realise that, and I think if we move on to talking a little bit more about Years and Years, and Heidi Reese has sent a question in. We'll start with some of the questions that we've received in. So Heidi Reese has sent a question in. She's an aspiring screenwriter, and she wants to know what inspired you to write Years and Years, and how long did it take you to write it? Oh, right. I wanted to write Years and Years for years. It's funny because there are people watching. We can't see everyone watching, can we? It's not like one of those Zoom calls with 200 people on the screen. It's just me and you. So waving at Heidi if she's there. It was an idea I'd always had for years because I was always very aware of. I always felt a disconnect between television drama and real life. Every story exists in a parallel world, really, and it doesn't exist in the real world. And I wanted to close that gap. And I'd always wanted about 3 different series come together in my head, and literally for about 20 years. It's funny. We just finished the edit. I'm just saying, ideas live in your head for decades. We just watched the final episode of Boys today, the first edit of that. And I went downstairs and I made a cup of tea, and I realised I had the first conversation about that drama, about a drama about AIDS, in a room in Granada Television in 1995.
Wow.
25 years ago, with Katrina Mackenzie. I suddenly remembered, I'd forgotten it, and it suddenly surfaced. I was like, oh my God. So that's how long I did sit around. So for decades, I had been thinking of something that would marry fiction with the news, and also to show a country going into a recession. I watched that happen in June 2008. It's happened a few times in my life. And if what will happen if a recession just gets worse, and Lord knows, we are heading for what they're already starting to call the Greater Depression now. Blimey, we've got a depression to come.
And a lot of people have said that you must have psychic powers. You must be, foretelling and predicting stuff. And Elizabeth Campbell asks, how does it feel that you predicted the future with the monkey flu epidemic in Years and Years?
It's weird. It's like Years and Years. Thank you. Very nice. I'd love to have those powers. I would be on a gold yacht now with Keanu Reeves, still my great love. And I know, is there anyone better, really? Really? Is there? Come on, Ellie.
No.
And there was so much stuff. I flung so much stuff at the wall with Years and Years that some of it sticked. But real life outpaced my imagination so far. It's funny because there was a monkey flu in Years and Years, but I actually stopped that step of going. I remember looking at it and looking at like World Health Organization protocols of what would happen in a lockdown, and I kind of thought, oh, that would stop my entire drama. So I took a bit of it, and because it was the last episode, so I had other things to do. I had stories to tell, so I kind of deliberately went, oh, don't get too bogged down in that. And here it is. Because I'd read up on it. It wasn't called lockdowns then, but they were called isolation procedure. I don't think anyone used the word lockdown in the official documents. I can't remember. It's been 3 years ago since I read it. But I remember reading it thinking, oh, that's a good idea for a drama in itself. And here we are. You're right, though. It's like the last thing I want to watch now is a drama called Lockdown.
Yeah.
Everyone's in isolation. Unless it's very gay and sexy, I suppose, then I'd watch it.
I think I do think we've had a lot of people come in and say and ask us questions about whether commissioners are going to change their slates. Are they going to adjust things? I think nobody knows anything at the moment, when we just have to wait and see when we come out of the other side what the appetite is there.
I mean, it is scary because there are much bigger problems to come. I remember during the recession of 2008, I had friends who worked at ITV, and they'd say, "We don't know if we can show this episode of The Bill tonight." There was so short of advertisers and so short of money. That's how tight it was. And they say this recession is going to be even bigger, and that's going to affect the commercial channels hugely. It looks like everyone's flocking to streaming, but once a recession hits them, they'll start cutting back as well. And we've got a government that is morally and profoundly opposed to the BBC. Please don't think they'll change their minds about the BBC in this crisis. In fact, when there's a recession, the government will turn around and say, "We've got a great idea. We can save you £157 a year by cutting the licence fee and making that voluntary." So that is the next step that the Conservatives will take. I guarantee you that's the plan. So there's a great threat to all broadcasters everywhere.
And it's just a shame that the arts just seem to be the first things that sort of become the casualties of these things. And
the moment you lose that argument, the moment you use the word the arts, because it's like, it's very easy to turn around and go, what about doctors and nurses and things like that?
I know.
No, but what people forget is, I'm always very keen on this, that people say a drama costs £1 million. And it sounds like you've just thrown £1 million down the drain. It sounds like you've just thrown it away. What it means when it says a drama costs £1 million is that £1 million pays the drivers and the hotels, the staff and the food and the people who make the food and the cleaners and the actors and the people who put the plugs on the wires. It's actually pay. What that £1 million has done is in fact, it doesn't really go anywhere else. It is the pay for all those employees. It means you've paid £1 million into the community. So it's not money to throw away. And when that stops, you've just taken £1 million out of a town's pay, a community's pay. And it's more than £1 million because it's all drugs, all happening all at once. So vast amounts have been taken out of the economy. They're just gone. And that's people's wages. It's really, really frightening.
It is. Well, let's move on, and let's go and talk about quickly some Doctor Who questions. As I said, we've had a few in. Peter Adamson has asked, do you find it easier to write for your own characters, which you've created, or characters from long-running series like Doctor Who that have already been developed?
I always prefer writing my own, to be honest. But actually, Doctor Who's very unusual because I loved writing the Daleks. And the Doctor himself isn't my property. I mean, you kind of make those your own property. So it's very unique in that sense. I don't tend to write other people's shows. I've had a whole career where I've only very rarely done other people's shows, only 2 or 3 times in my life. I'll take this off now. It's actually quite tight. Isn't it funny? But so Doctor Who's the one exception. It's like, give me the Cyberman, give me the Daleks, give me the Master, and I love writing those. I love putting my own spin on them. I mean, it's a selfish job in that sense. I'm not there to just. I don't think I ever brought back any Monsters when characters just to photocopy them. I was quite, but that's what I'm employed for. That's why I have to have the nerve to say I'm employed to put my own spin on this. But but in an ideal world, my own stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, and Xander is asking, what is your favourite episode of Doctor Who that you haven't written?
Oh, that I haven't written. That's a good question. It's funny looking at Doctor Who. It's like looking at my diary. I mean, we made that Stephen Moffat episode, Blink, with the Weeping Angels, and I think if you'd made Blink 90 minutes long and released it in the cinema, taken the Doctor out and released it in the cinema, it would be like The Exorcist or the Blair Witch Project. It would be an all-time classic horror film. So I'm kind of amazed that I've even got my name on that thing. I love that thing, and I'm immensely proud of that. So directed by Hetty MacDonald, who did this Normal People. It's going out now. It's a really, really... Kerry Mulligan is the lead actor in it. I remember her coming to the read-through. She was just so lovely and sweet, and it's like, wow. So all the conjunctions in heaven came together for that one. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And James Knowles, this is one of my favourite questions. So James Knowles, he's a final year film production student at the University of Salford. He's asking, if you had your own personal TARDIS and were allowed to cross your own timeline, what advice would you give yourself when you first entered the film and television industry?
Oh, that's a good question, James.
Yeah.
I mean, God, I would say, really, I'd say, don't worry, you can have a great time, because I've not had a bad career, have I? And I think in the beginning, I'd say, I think to someone starting out now, and not to brand new novices, to people who who are in their first, second, or third jobs, I would say now. So maybe I'd say this to myself, which is that it takes a good 10 years or so to find, for me anyway, to find where you're going. Don't worry. It's like, and to work out who you like working with, because you're surrounded by sort of creative people, and once you're very, it's a creative industry, and that creativity creates creativity, and you can go in all sorts of directions and work out. It's a very hard thing to work out who you like working with, who you're in sync with. And obviously, I was very lucky to find Nicola Schindler at Red Production.
And me.
Okay, exactly. But we love. It takes time to find those people. It's not straight away. So don't worry if you don't find them straight away. And I think I learned something from every terrible job I ever did. Actually, I don't think I ever really did a terrible job, because I had a laugh on everything. Oh no, my God, I did some terrible jobs. I did a sitcom at Granada called The House of Windsor that was absolutely shocking. It was so bad, I took my name off the scripts. I called myself Leo Vaughan, like a porn star. Leo Vaughan, hi. My name's Leo Vaughan. It was the worst program in the world. I was kind of trapped into writing it. And they did throw money at me, I've got to say. But I learned that I could survive. Actually, once you I can't go into personal details online. It was a very, very powerful cast, a very strong cast, a very opinionated cast who knew they were working on rubbish. They were right. I didn't create the show. They were right that it was rubbish. So every week, and it was done as live every week. So you'd have to go into the rehearsal room with the cast having read the reviews of the previous episode. And I learned that I could survive anything. After that, I literally survived anything after that. So.
I think a lot of students or people coming to this quite fresh into the industry think that once they've got their mind set in one direction, that's the only direction that they're to go. And I think you're absolutely right. You have to experience all the areas. I mean, I watched in an interview that you did a while back that you started off as an AFM or on the floor, and all of those experiences are absolutely fundamental to knowing where you sit and where you like sitting within the structure of drama.
It's true. And I started in children's programs, and I loved what I learned there, because children's programs are essentially cheaper than any other programs, and so you learn to do everything within. On my first day, I was sent into an edit, two machine edit of 1-inch tapes. I didn't know what any of those words meant. And I was sent to television centre, frantically phoning my friends, what does that mean? And but I learned I was sent into a dub, having never done a dubbing script in my life, with some fierce men at BBC North who ruled that dubbing suite like titans. But I learned off them. They taught me a million things. I was sent out to direct stuff. I was in Blackpool Beach, directing kids playing games, and oh my God, you get to do everything in children's. And so by the end, I was a fully trained studio director. I went on a training course. I could do live television programs. I was trained in that. Live multi-camera shows. It's incredible to think now. I was trained in that. All of which I think helps me write a script now. My scripts are always very filmable. They're always very shootable, because I know practically how things work and how things go together. Sometimes you could argue that's a bad thing, that I should write scripts that just don't care and push the system. That's other people's problems, but it's kept me in work. I've done all right. So, yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, let's move on to some more general questions that we've had in. We've got Martin Perks from Warrington has asked, are there any of your previous works you would like to go back to and create a new chapter for?
Oh, well, yeah, that's funny. I mean, not really, no. But I often think the very first thing I had on 9 o'clock on television was a series called The Grand, which was kind of like Downton Abbey. It was like upstairs, downstairs. It was a hotel in Manchester in the 1920s. And my God, that was me learning on air, learning how to write. Poor ITV had to put up with me literally learning to write over 2 years while the ratings went down and down and down. It wasn't a success. But by the end, I was kind of realising how to. I wrote it very seriously. And by the end, I was learning to put more of a sense of humour into it, and how to have more of a laugh with it. And on the very last episode, Susan Hampshire inherited as the local prostitute, as the residential prostitute of the hotel, ended up buying the entire hotel and saving everyone's jobs and becoming the matron of the hotel. That's a great series. Yeah. That show began in the final episode. Literally, she walked up the stairs and you said, "That's a good show." Too late, the ratings were in the bucket and it was cancelled. So there's something good there. Yeah.
Sorry, that question was for Mike Perks, not Martin. But Martin is my next question, and he would like to know, when it comes to the development process, how do you know when your scripts are truly ready to deliver? And have you always trusted yourself in believing when they're ready?
Yes, and you've just got to have a word with yourself there, because if you are writing scripts at home, you can say, "Oh, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready," and then 10 years have passed and it's still in the desk. And actually, when things are 10 years old, they get a smell about them. It's when you have references to Betamax tapes and things like that, you begin to go, "That script's a bit old." You can literally, sometimes you can just tell a script that's been sitting there for a long time. So finishing it is absolutely as important as starting it, and it's very, it's hard to tell how you know that. I haven't got a golden rule for that. I've not been asked that before specifically, but actually, you should have. I always think it's such a hard job. You should have a sense of satisfaction about it. It's like, because there's a million moments when you don't have any satisfaction, and a million people will tell you it was wrong. So you've got to kind of cultivate a sense of that. Yeah, that was good. That's good. I like that. Yes, and then that's time to nail it. And also by handing it over, then you'll start to get good notes. If you find people who give you good notes, and that's when it starts to become a real thing as opposed to just your idea. So there's no magic solution. No, just do it. Just do it. Look, finish it. Give yourself a week. I've never done this. As soon as I finish it, I deliver them. But I've been doing this for a long time. But if I were you, finish it. Give yourself a week. All those little doubts will raise to the surface. Correct those doubts. Then hand it in. Do it. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Dan's got a question about what kind of research you do and how much you do before you write a script.
I do a lot. I do an awful lot, and then throw it all away. Really, when I wrote The Grand, actually, that thing set in the 1920s. I spent months in the Manchester Library reading all the newspapers, and that was a great way to get the language and the feel of what was happening in the 1920s. I went into so much detail in The Grand that the weather was correct for those episodes. If I said an episode took place on the 18th of October 1920, I got the weather right. There was one great big mist that came along, and I put that into the show. I loved that. Equally, you've got to stop. I remember years and years of kind of researched. I just bought New Scientist for like 10 years. It's funny, I've been delivered years and years. I've stopped there for a while. It's a great magazine to read, but I've kind of like let myself go of the pressure of absorbing stuff from it. So a lot. You've got to be diligent. You've got to know your stuff, but equally, your imagination is the most important thing. So just depends who you are. It's like, yeah.
You can really tell that when you read one of your scripts. You can really tell that how much detail you do put in there. Like you've said about the researching all the grand information and the weather. You can really see that, and I think that they are a joy to read because immediately you see them, and even though what you see isn't always what ends up being shown, it's so descriptive, and it does just come off the page and take you to somewhere else. And
I would say at the same time to keep them succinct, to keep them brief, because what I write is very precise stage directions, not very long stage directions. I think you've got to be aware when writing a script, it's not a novel. Yeah. And obviously my scripts and lots of people's scripts, like Sally Wainwright's scripts, are all online on the BBC Writers' Room. That's a very fine website. I suspect that people who are watching this interested in script writing, the best way to learn about script writing is to read other people's scripts. Mm-hmm. You will just absorb what you like, and more importantly, you'll absorb what you don't like. If you're reading it going, I don't like that. I wouldn't. That's too long. This paragraph's too long. I want more detail. You'll find your style through your criticism of other people's scripts. So, and if you're not reading other people's scripts, if you're a pretty odd writer, you really should be doing it.
Okay, let's go. I'm going to go to some live questions that we've literally just had in.
Marvelous.
So this is testing my reading skills. Tim Norman came in on Facebook and said he adores the Writer's Tale book. It's like a Bible to him, and endlessly inspiring. Would you consider releasing a new book with similar theme to cover your other projects?
Oh, I don't think so. I think, my God, I went on and I can hardly open the Writer's Tale now. Sometimes I need to look for someone's birthday or something. A Writer's Tale is a book I wrote. It's a book of emails between me and a journalist called Ben Cook. written during the making of Doctor Who Series 4. So, and Torchwood. I understand the incredible thing about The Writer's Tale is that it leaves out 2/3 of my life. I was also making Torchwood. I was also making Sarah the Jane Adventures at the same time. We cut all that out. So it just covers the Doctor Who stuff. And they were mental times. They were very mental times. I've got to say, I think The Writer's Tale is a very accurate book about writing. It's not always like that. I was busier than any man on earth during that, and I've never been as busy since. It's like if I was writing a book during Years and Years, or during a very English scandal or something like that, it would be a lot calmer, and deadlines are hit, and it's a lot easier. Nothing will ever be as mental, because now I write maybe 6 episodes a year, 5 with boys. English scandal was just 3 episodes. It's a much easier life. I was writing 14 Doctor Who and 13. There was 13 Torchwood and 12 Sarah Janes. So life is a lot easier now. Yes.
Gosh. I don't know how you kept up with. You must have had stickers everywhere of how you piece it all together. It must have been bonkers.
Well, you see photos of me from back then. I look like a pale wee beastie.
Stephen Goss has sent a question in. He's asking, what do you make of the new trends of releasing whole series on streaming platforms, particularly iPlayer, but still putting out a weekly episode on broadcast TV? So you've got the two platforms.
I like it. There's no fighting it. I mean, there's no point in there hating it, because it's going to happen. I've been doing that with Normal People this week. I watched the first 2. I liked them. I watched the episodes. I liked them enough to watch episodes 3 and 4. When I'd seen episodes 3 and 4, I loved it. I seriously, significantly. Episode 3 is, you really click into what the series is actually, and I did that last night. I was like, I'm planning the rest of my week watching it all. So I like it. I think I'm glad it's not just going to a great big online box set, because we forget that terrestrial viewing is still a big thing. It's interesting. Essentially, this week in the middle of lockdown, the biggest rating sensation this week is Beat the Chasers on ITV, which is an old-fashioned quiz show I love. I think it's amazing. And, if you can't box set things like that, you've got to be there in the arena with the Chasers. I love that show. I think it's really, really terrific. And but I like it. It's like, we don't know where The Boys in the autumn will be released as a box set. I kind of hope it does get released as a box set, because it's a very domestic series. It's very naturalistic. It's very relaxed. They're not robbing banks or murdering people. There's no great plot in that sense. So I think it's a bunch of people you like spending 5 hours with. So I think it'd be rather nice to watch that in a 5-hour chunk one day. So I like it. I think I say that thinking we're still exploring how it works. I think I think we'll start to see through an awful lot of streaming programs soon, where the narrative is just a straight 10 hours in a straight line. No differentiation between the episodes. I think that's a mistake. The good ones, like Killing Eve or something, all their episodes are very different.
Yeah.
We could talk about streaming drama for a long time, but there are problems, but it's interesting.
Yeah. And when you're just one of the other questions that's really interested me is, when you talk about your writing and when you are writing, are you aware of how much what you write impacts on individual people's lives and even legislation? Was that ever in your mind when you're writing it? We've had so many people coming in saying, thanking you for writing Queer as Folk. It's changed their lives. Banana, cucumber, tofu, all life-changing for individuals. I just wonder whether you think about that.
That's a big one, LA. No, I think otherwise I don't. And also, I also think anyone who writes anything can change someone's life. I think that's what a good drama does. And when I say a good drama, it could be a really funny children's show that just hits your sense of humour. Clive Doig used to make children's television programs like Vision On, and he made a program called The Album, which I still think of to this day, and I love. It's when you make a good show, it finds its way into someone's heart. I think it's dangerous, part. I think if you sit there going, this will change things, and this will have an effect, and this will alter the world, I think you might start writing polemics then. I think it's just an honour if anyone ever says that. It's very nice. It's especially true when you write gay stuff, because the simple act of being gay or queer or trans or being any sort of other in the 21st century is a political act. Your existence is a political thing. But MPs will debate you, laws will be passed around you, Twitter will scream about you. So I feel a kind of responsibility there. I feel also a kind of censorship there that I like pushing against. I think there's an orthodoxy in being radical as well, and that's interesting to kind of press against. So interesting times, and I think yes, I think things are happening with sexual politics now that are faster and wilder and sometimes darker than I ever imagined. So I'm just trying to keep up with that. So yes, I can't really think, is this going to change someone's life? Or I might stop. You know, you could have there are plenty of people lining up to say it has a detrimental effect. Thank you very much. So if you're not going to listen to them, you can't really listen to the other side as well. Just make it good. That's all.
Brilliant. And are there has anybody come to you with a project or an idea for a project that you've turned down, and then they've gone to somebody else and it's been made and you've kicked yourself thinking, oh, I would have done that better? Or
yeah, I'm not going to. There are.
You don't have to name names.
Because it would sound like it's almost, whenever you say things like that, you always regret it because it sounds like I would have written it better. And although I would have, honestly, there's some things I can name that are huge. I just think, oh, I was mad. Every time I turn something down, I don't often pick up other people's ideas. It's very rare. It's only Casanova was brought to me as an idea, and A Very English Scandal was brought to me as an idea, which I loved, and I loved writing them. But they instantly kind of chimed at me. I instantly wanted to write them once I knew what they were. But it's quite rare, actually. I have an agent who filters ideas. And, every week I get sent stuff, but I'm mostly saying no to it. Really.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of with the iPlayer has really ramped up during this lockdown period. We've put in loads more stuff out there. Have you rewatched anything that you've thought, oh, that's dying out for a remake, or is it brought back some nostalgia for you? Or
I don't tend to rewatch stuff once I don't even rewatch Doctor Who these days. There isn't time. No, I'm not. It's funny, we live in a world where people go, oh, I'm watching Killing Eve again, and I'm like, again. And I love that show, but it's like it's no. I'd much rather, now I'm sitting there thinking. Tell you what, I think a lot of people are missing is Devs on BBC Two, which is a really dark, strange, slightly futuristic thriller. It's immaculately directed. It's written and directed by Alex Garland. That I kind of thought, well, I've had a look at this, and it's like hypnotizing me. I'm watching, I think there were 8 of them or 10 of them, and I'm watching one every night. And that's slipping under people's radar a bit. It's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant and compelling. So no, I'd rather watch something new, to be honest, rather than rewatch it. Yeah.
Okay, let's have. I've just been told there that Devs is made in the Northwest, which is lovely to hear. I didn't know that.
Made in the West.
That's what I've been told. Maybe I'm wrong.
Big American show.
Is it?
Is it?
I don't know. Let's finish up now because I think we are rapidly running out of time. Let's see if I've got one more question for you. Let's have a look. One more.
Names in the frames.
Let's have a look. So Mark William Ferguson, he says, where do you get your ideas for new TV programmes from?
Oh, that's the big, that there is no answer to that. I read a quote recently that said, I read this about 2 years ago. It said, you will have every idea you're ever going to have by the age of 16, and you spend the rest of your life working through them. And you kind of go, oh, that's just nonsense. And actually, sometimes I think that as the years go by, I think, oh, there's some truth in that. I think all the shows I'm talking to you about now are things I've wanted to write for decades. And even a gay show, that's something I've been thinking about just in terms of gayness since I was 11. So it is interesting that it's like you are your own store of stories, and that doesn't mean you have to have had a fantastic life. It doesn't mean you have to have a mad life. I think when you're young, you can be very jealous, strangely, weirdly jealous of people who've had terrible lives, because they always do interviews saying, "Oh yes, my parents did terrible things. They were in prison, and I was on drugs, and I was an alcoholic." And you sit there thinking, "God, I have lived." No wonder they write brilliant scripts. Don't be bullied by that. It's you can imagine that stuff. Everyone's been, and you don't need to imagine it. Everyone's had. You might be addicted to crisps. Everyone's had bad days in school. Everyone's felt lonely in school. Everyone's felt their mum and dad don't love them. Everyone's felt their mum and dad don't understand them. You just take those things and extrapolate them into bigger things. So don't sit there thinking you haven't lived. Don't sit there thinking you haven't experienced anything. Don't sit there thinking your life is small, because actually it's all inside you. Ever since you were a kid, those ideas have been bubbling away. So you don't have to have suffered in order to write. You can suffer while writing because it's hard work. Good luck with that. But no, it's like nothing. No one knows where an imagination comes from. Can come from anyone.
Oh, brilliant. Well, our time is up, Russell. That was 40 minutes. It went by in an absolute flash.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you. I want to say a massive thank you to Colin and Billy from the ICZ Media Production team for their technical support, and thank you to Rachel Pinkney for producing the event. Also, a massive thank you to the RTS Northwest, Red Production Company and Media City UK for cross-streaming this across their social platforms. For those interested and want more of an insight into drama and the world of drama, you can tune into the RTS Northwest Facebook page tomorrow at 1, where you can hear from Julie Graham, Denise Welsh and Angela Griffin talking about the brand new online series Done Breeding. It's a new, as Russell said, new series filmed and produced during the lockdown. Tomorrow's session is a Q&A and hopes to offer you all an insight into how the drama was made during the lockdown. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening for the first Spotlight on Virtual session. Please keep your eyes out and open for Media City UK's social media for more announcements about future sessions. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.